Good morning, everybody, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me to this meeting. Today, I wanted to talk about the joint rapid appraisal on strengthening agricultural innovation systems in Asia. This is something which we did together with APARI. That is a joint activity between the APARI and the Asia Pacific Island Rural Advisory Service. So it is an activity which is conducted by the research network and the extension network in the Asia Pacific region. And as this presentation is mostly about strengthening AIS, agricultural innovation systems, I would like to also focus a little more on what is the rationale for using this kind of a framework. Martina, in the previous speaker, covered a lot on the importance of agricultural innovation systems. I will be very brief with the conceptual part of the agricultural innovation systems. So I think we all recognize that the new knowledge is critical for many reasons, for increasing productivity, increasing rural income, promoting sustainability, ensuring resilience. And this is the rationale on which a lot of investments have gone into the agriculture sector, investments made by the national governments, international financial institutions, international donors, CGIAR. So a lot of investments have happened on the assumption that when new knowledge, when it is applied, it will lead to better socio-economic impact. But what is happening is that over the last few years, there have been increasing concerns on the limited impact of investments in agriculture, because everybody is asking, where is the upscaled impact? We are not able to see the impact of the investment that we have made in agriculture sector. So there is an increasing consensus that now we need to use perhaps better new frameworks to organize the sector. So this is something like the agricultural innovation systems is a new framework, which will help us to look at the sector and organize the sector so that there is more interaction and knowledge flows among the different actors. This is not a new concept per se, in a sense, agricultural innovation systems. We have been talking about it. I think in 2006, this publication on enhancing agricultural innovation came up with a lot of case studies on how the system operates and what needs to be done. And in 2012, the World Bank came up with this agricultural innovation source book, which also talks in detail about what needs to be done. But even with all these kind of things, these ideas are yet to be mainstreamed in the way we organize our agriculture research and agricultural extension or the whole agricultural sector. So we wanted to know what is this, why we are talking about an agricultural innovation system. So I think this is the same slide which Martina also used. And the main argument is that there are a number of actors in the sector which are all spread around research and education. And some people are in the bridging institution. This is where the agricultural extension agencies come in the picture, and also the producer organizations who broker relationship between the different actors. You have a business and enterprise sector. There are actors in the enabling environment. So I think we need to have more interactions among all these actors if you really wanted to see innovation and impact at a scale, because each actor brings complementary expertise and knowledge. And only when these organizations come together, interact, join together, partner with each other, then only we will be able to achieve innovation and an impact at a scale. Increasingly, there is a lot of evidence, even from the Commission for Sustainable Agricultural Intensification. There is a lot of evidence on how innovation happens, what we need to do if we wanted to be successful in innovation, the importance of technical innovations, institutional, policy, financial, market-related innovations. So this is what we call as now as the innovation, the capacity. And this capacity for innovation varies across different countries and across the different sectors. So I think you can apply this kind of a framework in any sector, whether it's a plantation crop sector or in an aquaculture sector. So I think we will be able to map all these different actors and understand their patterns of interactions. I think this is and since 2012, actually, this tropical agriculture platform, which is hosted in the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, this is a G20 initiative. It also came up with several principles, approaches, and tools to promote these ideas, especially in the global south, especially in many countries, so that we develop these capacities, especially this kind of a capacities to navigate complexity, These are the kind of a capacities what we need nowadays more, because there's a lot of technical capacity building that has already gone into this area. So we know about whether it's a plant production technologies or a pest management. We know about many of these kind of a thing. But what we lack is these type of capacities, reflection and learning, collaboration. So this is where our kind of a current challenge is. And I think Martina also explained what are those different capacities in terms of facilitation, mobilization, partnership building, policy advocacy, learning, knowledge management, coordination. So this is the challenge where we currently face in Asia. So we did this joint rapid appraisal, as I said before, last year, which is also ongoing till the middle of this year as a joint initiative between APARI and APARAS. So we were trying to take stock of how do we build this capacity? What are the current mechanisms for developing these capacities? And what, as regional research and extension organizations, what we could do in terms of strengthening these capacities. So this is what we did. And I just wanted to focus on what are our main findings which are coming out from this joint rapid appraisal. We found that only few countries have a clearly articulated innovation policy. We know many of them in India, Korea, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand. Many of them have a innovation policy. We are not talking about an agricultural innovation policy, but many of them have a science technology innovation policy. But in general, what we found that across the different countries, there is a weak capacity to implement these kind of the policies exist, but capacity to implement these policies is very weak. So what we have been seeing is that even within public sector, there are organizations with different departments, ministries, different agencies. They don't normally work together because they have a separate mandate. They have been funded separately. They don't have to come together and they have been evaluated and they have been evaluated for their performance also individually. So there is an issue there. Another is limited public investments for agriculture research and extension. I think the case is more severe. I think the fund scarcity is very severe in the case of extension. All those agencies, we are talking about a pluralistic extension currently, but I think the funding is weak, limited number of human resources, very limited operational funds to organize meetings. So we have an issue of not having sufficient number of people with the right capacities, right functional capacities to support knowledge application. We are still talking about a linear approach, research, extension, farmer. This is the logic in which the whole system operates. Very little systems perspective in the way agricultural research, or we train our faculty, we train our trainers, we train our researchers. And many of these actors lack capacity. They're all very good technical researchers, but when it comes to ensuring a collective action of all these actors, many often they fail. There is very little awareness on strengthening these capacities, and there are very limited opportunities for functional capacity development because you don't have enough people, enough trainers to do it. And we look at capacity development at three levels: from the individual level, organization, and at the systems level. Many times at the individual level, capacity development is often addressed as training farmers. It is not about training the intermediaries. We are not talking about training researchers. There is an interesting in the kind of a private sector is increasingly emerging into this area because they realize the importance of developing sustainable value chains. So there is an increasing interest in that. Coming to capacities at the organizational level, because this is also another area where a lot of efforts have to be made in terms of how do we build capacities to collaborate, public-private partnerships. 4 Ps, we are talking about public-private producer organization partnerships. But I think these are the areas where we do not have enough trainers. There is not enough case studies. There is not even training modules that can help senior managers to acquire some of these kind of skills. Similarly, there are issues at the systems level. We have been talking about experimenting with innovation platforms, but many of them are at a very project level. And when the project ends, things, I think, all these things will disappear. But I'm not saying that things are not happening. There are good examples coming from Grow Asia, which have been all trying to set up multi-stakeholder groups. And as I said before, because there's an industry, many people recognize the importance of working with communities, strengthening the system's ability strengthening the capacity of producer organizations, development of sustainable value chain. So things are happening, but things are not happening at the desired level. And we also look at what are the success factors if you really wanted to build these capacities. It cannot happen merely through training or showing a PowerPoints, because we need to have projects, we need to have where people will be able to try, experiment, and learn. It needs a supportive policy framework and rigorous capacity need assessments. Because since we don't assess the capacity needs, many of these capacity gaps are not visible. So unless projects, initiatives which have a policy to strengthen these capacities, have a rigorous systems to capacity need assessment, have people, trainers who are able to communicate, who are able to train researchers, extension managers, private sector on the importance of collaboration and how to do it. And in countries where there is an active intermediary, big NGOs which are in the middle, who are trying to negotiate with the different actors in the system, importance of a knowledge management, and also the kind of a sustainability, end of the project sustainability. Projects and initiatives which have made some of these efforts have really created these kind of capacities for innovation. So I think this is something which we have learned. And for capacity development for innovation, these are the kind of challenges and opportunities which we are seeing from the study. Inadequate funding, as I talked about earlier, lack of enough trainers, training of trainers, not enough training modules, inertia, the institutional inertia, because people wanted to remain the status quo is more attractive than change. So, and there is no pressure to really change unless there is a kind of a major shock. People would like to remain in their comfort zone. There are also issues related to the kind of a communication deficiencies, because it is a top-down. There is very little mechanism for lateral communication. Monitoring evaluation is weak, and not recognizing the diversity. So we need to have diverse approaches, diverse pathways if you really wanted to achieve a sustainable development, and also in terms of building capacities for innovation. But increasing interest, because there is a disappointment with the returns to the investments that have been made. So there is an increasing interest in using. It's an opportunity for AIS approaches. Emerging markets, because value addition, linking farmers to markets. So people recognize that no, it is not merely technical capacity development that is required. We need to also strengthen other type of capacities related to negotiation, partnerships, knowledge management, so learning. So this is all required. New ICTs, especially the digital communication tools, this also offer opportunities for, especially for in terms of capacity development, because we can have the digital training modules. So there are work in progress, FAO's e-learning academy, the GFRAS, the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services, their promotion of the new extension is Learning It. These are all trying to use the digital technologies in promoting functional capacity development. And there is also an increasing interest, because funders, donors make a point that, okay, at least 5% or whatever has to be spent on monitoring, evaluation, and learning, and this should be used. So I think these are some of the opportunities which we are seeing in that space. And I will conclude with the overall conclusions from this study, because we need to focus more on this, how do we integrate functional capacities into the innovation process. We need to have more trainers. We need to train trainers who have who can really act in this kind of an area of functional capacity development. There is a need to raise awareness and advocacy, because there are people still recognize capacity development in terms of technical areas. The another point is about the enhancing or strengthening local innovation networks, strengthening the producer organizations, strengthening the network of intermediaries, agripreneurs, who also provide a lot of bridging services. And finally, the role of organizations like the networks which we host, like the APIRAS, the Asia Pacific Island Rural Advisory Services, the Asia Pacific Association for Agriculture Research Institutions. Dr. Ravi is here, and Martina is also part of the APARI. So we are now coming together, and we are trying to work together in terms of developing working groups around these themes, developing training materials. We recently organized a training of trainers from the select participants of the different countries, whom we believe will further organize similar training programs in terms of systems approaches to innovation. So we have been trying to do some of these activities in this space. And we also recognize that there is a lot more needs to be done in terms of in the area of education and training, because we need to look into the agricultural education, especially at the graduate, postgraduate, PhD levels, so that we can introduce some of these kind of new courses in terms of facilitation for development, innovation management as a separate discipline, which is emerging in many countries. So these are some of our conclusions which we have found from this area. And I will stop here. And once again, thanks for this opportunity to present, to share our findings from this joint rapid appraisal. Thank you very much.